Please subscribe my channel Wisdom After 60 and press bell notification.
There comes a time in life when we realize that some of the heaviest burdens we carry are not in our hands, but in our hearts. It might be a sharp word someone spoke decades ago, a betrayal that left a deep scar, or perhaps it's the quiet ache of a relationship that never found its way back to peace. When we're younger, we think time will heal everything on its own. But as the years pass, we begin to see that some wounds only soften when we make a choice. The choice to forgive and forgiveness. It isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's not about pretending it didn't hurt or that it didn't matter. It's about giving ourselves the gift of a lighter heart, free from the constant weight of old pain. After 60, life feels different. The days are more precious, the quiet moments more meaningful. We've learned that peace is worth far more than winning an old argument or proving we were right. And sometimes, the peace we long for is waiting just on the other side of forgiveness. In this gentle conversation, I want to share with you why forgiveness holds such deep importance in these later chapters of life, not just for our relationships, but for our health, our spirit, and our ability to fully enjoy the time we have now. So, if you've been carrying a hurt that still feels heavy, stay with me. Together, we'll explore how to finally set it down and walk forward feeling lighter than you have in years. When we are younger, holding on to anger can feel strangely comforting, like a shield that keeps us from being hurt again. We tell ourselves, if I don't forgive, I won't forget. And if I don't forget, I won't be fooled twice. It becomes a way of protecting our hearts from further pain. But as the years pass, something changes. We notice that the sharp edges of the past aren't as clear anymore. The faces of the people we once argued with have softened in memory, and sometimes, the details of what caused the hurt have faded, even though the heaviness of it still lingers. After 60, we begin to see life in a wider frame. We know now that time is not endless, and the weight we carry shapes how we walk through our remaining days. Old grudges, once tightly held, can start to feel less like protection and more like an anchor. I often think of it like a traveler on a long journey. At first they carry every bag, every item they think they might need, even the heavy stones they picked up along the way. But after many miles, the traveler realizes they can't go on with all that weight. To continue, they must open their hands and let some things go. Forgiveness is much the same. It's not about saying, what happened was fine. It's about saying, I choose not to carry this any longer. It's a way of telling ourselves, my peace matters more than my pain. And when we begin to see life this way, the idea of forgiveness becomes less of a sacrifice and more of a gift. There comes a moment in life when we begin to see people differently, not just for what they did to us, but for who they were at the time. We start to realize that many of the hurts we carry were caused by people who were themselves struggling, broken, or unaware. Maybe they were doing the best they could with what they knew, even if it wasn't nearly enough. This realization doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't suddenly make what happened okay, but it changes the way we hold the memory. Instead of seeing only the wound, we see the full picture, the flawed human being behind it, the circumstances that shaped their actions, and the truth that life is rarely black and white. I've seen people in their later years make this shift, and the change is almost visible. One friend told me how she had carried anger toward her father for decades. She said it felt like a stone in her chest. But when she finally allowed herself to see him not as the towering figure of her childhood, but as a man who had lived a hard and limited life, something softened inside her. She didn't excuse him, but she forgave him. And she told me, with tears in her eyes, that the night after she forgave, she slept better than she had in years. Forgiveness at its deepest level is not about changing the past. It's about changing the way we live with it. It's giving ourselves permission to stop rehearsing the same old story and to write a gentler ending in our hearts. And that shift can feel like finally breathing after years of holding your breath. What many people don't realize is that carrying old anger isn't just an emotional burden. It can quietly affect the body too. When we hold on to bitterness, our muscles stay a little tighter. Our breathing can become shallow without us even noticing. Our heart beats faster when we think of certain people or moments. And over time, that tension takes its toll. Researchers have found that prolonged stress, the kind that comes from unresolved hurt, can raise blood pressure, weaken the immune system, and even disturb our sleep. But you don't need a medical study to feel it. You already know that a restless mind leads to a restless body. I've heard many stories from people who decided to forgive and were surprised by the changes. They felt fewer headaches, easier breathing, even better digestion. It's as if the body finally got permission to let go of a weight it had been carrying in silence. And then there are the relationships. Forgiveness doesn't always mean you have to rebuild a friendship or return to the way things were. Sometimes that's not wise, and sometimes it's not even possible. But it can mean making peace in your own heart, so that family gatherings, phone calls, or even unexpected meetings don't bring the same spike of anxiety. Think of forgiveness as clearing a space in a crowded room. When the resentment moves out, something else, kindness, understanding, even joy, has room to move in. And at this stage of life, when every good moment is precious, that open space can be one of the greatest gifts we give ourselves and those we love. As we grow older, something shifts deep inside. We begin to think less about what we can gain and more about what we can leave behind. Our priorities change. The need to win old arguments, to prove a point, to make someone finally admit they were wrong, starts to feel small compared to the peace we could have instead. Forgiveness, in many ways, is not just an act toward another person, it's a spiritual cleansing of our own heart. Whether we follow a particular faith or simply believe in the power of love and humanity, there's a quiet truth we can all feel. Holding on to anger keeps us tied to the very moments we wish we could move past. It's like standing on the shore, clinging tightly to a heavy stone. The water is calm, the air is warm, the horizon is wide open, but we can't swim forward because we refuse to let go of what's in our hand. Forgiveness is the moment we open our fingers and watch that stone sink out of sight. For many, this choice comes with age. We've seen enough of life to know that every person is flawed, including ourselves. We remember the times we've needed to be forgiven, and the grace that came when someone gave it. That grace, in turn, makes it easier to extend the same to others, and there is something deeply freeing about going into the later years with a heart that feels light. It prepares us for the final chapters, not weighed down by what should have been, but comforted by what is. In that way, forgiveness is not just an emotional act. It's a spiritual gift we give ourselves before the sun sets. So here we are, at the gentle close of this conversation, and I hope you can feel the truth that has been quietly weaving through every word. Forgiveness is not for them. It's for you, it's for your mornings, so you can wake without the weight of yesterday pressing on your chest. It's for your afternoons, so you can enjoy a warm cup of tea without old memories stealing the sweetness of the moment. And it's for your nights, so you can lay your head down and rest in the kind of peace that only comes when the heart is light. You don't have to do it all at once. Forgiveness can be a slow process, a softening rather than a sudden release. Maybe today you simply decide to think of someone with a little less bitterness than you did yesterday. Maybe you whisper a silent wish for their peace, even if you still keep your distance. That too is forgiveness beginning to take root. And remember, you're not alone. Many of us in these later chapters are quietly setting down the burdens we've carried for far too long. We are choosing to travel lighter, so the road ahead feels gentler beneath our feet. If there is one thing I wish for you, it is this: that the rest of your days be filled with the kind of peace that forgiveness makes possible. Because a heart unburdened is a heart ready to love, laugh, and live fully right up to the very last page of the story.